Well, good morning, everybody. Welcome to another edition of E.W. Jackson for President of the United States. It's great to be with you again today. I hope everything is going well for you in spite of all the mess that's going on in our country. There are lots of things I could talk to you about today, but this is going to kind of be a daily report on the campaign. Look, the revelations we're getting about the Biden administration's corruption are nothing new. Shouldn't surprise any of us. I've been saying for really since before Biden got elected that Biden is a crook and the Biden family is a family of crooks. And he presides over basically a criminal enterprise. And we're seeing that that's absolutely true. The people at Burisma were saying, we're going to pay $5 million to Biden and $5 million to Hunter, and that is going to take care of the issues. Whatever problems we have, the Biden family will handle it for us. So they're crooked. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on that. We have to see how this all unfolds. And until we get a new president, there's not going to be any justice. It simply isn't, because the Justice Department, the FBI are corrupt. The leadership, at least, is corrupt. And they're simply not going to do anything. It's just that plain and simple. So people say, you know, they ought to be put in jail. They ought to be, well, you know, fine. I agree. I agree entirely. And I can say to you, when I am President of the United States and I appointed an Attorney General, his job is not going to be to go after people based on their ideology, but to go after them based on their criminality. And it doesn't, I don't care which way it cuts, conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat, the law is going to be enforced without prejudice. Won't that be refreshing? But here's what I need to talk to you about today, folks. This is day 7 of my countdown for my media boycott. Yeah, the media is boycotting me. If you look at the news, and I'm talking about the conservative media as well as the mainstream media, not a story about my candidacy. And I am a candidate. There's no question about that. I am a candidate. In fact, I wanted to tell you all to ask for your first of all, your prayers. We're going to get, we'll break through. Believe me, I'm not worried about it. We will break through. I'm not happy about it, but I'm not worried about it. Because when you're doing something worthwhile, you expect to run into obstacles and challenges and problems and so forth. And so it doesn't surprise me, okay? It doesn't surprise me. They're treating me like I have no influence, like I have no following, like nobody supports me, like who cares? When, folks, I was on the radio talking to people in close to 200 stations around the country for 5 or 6 years and had a larger audience than most of the people that they invite to come on to these networks to speak. Far larger audience than most of these people coming on these networks to speak. So why weren't they calling on me or Abraham Hamilton III or Sandy Rios or William Meeke? Why weren't they calling on us? Because they don't want to talk to Christians. They're not interested in the Christian perspective. To some extent, I suppose they bought into the Southern Poverty Law Center, labeling us as a hate group, or bought into this idea that somehow Christians are not in the mainstream, and Christian evangelical talk is not really, that's not really something anybody's interested in. Well, I think there are millions across this country who are very much interested in what all of us have to say, and therefore interested in what I have to say. So, I want to ask you all to do something for me. A week from today, there's going to be a Lincoln dinner at the Iowa Republican Party. My staff has been working to get me into that dinner. And when we first started inquiring, there were seats available. Now they're saying sold out. And it looks like they're going to actually keep me out of the dinner. I'm not kidding. And you would think, well, we got an additional candidate, Republican. We need to get him in. Let's figure it out. Oh, no. Why do you think that is? So I want to ask all of you if you would call the Iowa Republican Party. Here's the number, 515-282-8888. 8105. Let me pause and come back to it and give you a chance to get a pen. And just, you're not going to get anybody, but leave a message saying, I want to know why is it that E.W. Jackson is not being allowed to attend the dinner. He is a bona fide candidate for President of the United States. Why is he being kept out? I'm going, folks. I'm going. And I'm going to be there. If I have to stand outside the dinner, I'm going to be there. And maybe they can arrest me and tell me I'm trespassing and tell me that I'm not welcome as a presidential candidate, whatever they want to do. But I'm going. I'm flying to Iowa. I'm going to be at this dinner. And we'll see what they do. I mean, this is just thoroughly disgusting, folks. I mean, it is thoroughly disgusting. I know I'm going to have to fight the mainstream media, okay? I know I'm going to have to fight the Democrat Party. I know I'm going to have to fight the leftists. And by the way, the leftists have already begun to attack me, so obviously they're concerned. They don't, I guess this is where they're in agreement with some of these establishment people. They don't want me to be heard either. But I didn't really expect at this stage to be fighting the Republican establishment. I really didn't. And yet that's where we are. So I'm asking you, if you got a pen, write this down. Call these people, 515-282-8105. That's the Iowa Republican Party, and ask them, why are you not allowing E.W. Jackson, who is a candidate for president, to attend this dinner and have an opportunity to be heard? Why? And you can tell them, I'm a supporter. I'm somebody who wants him to be heard. What's going on? What's happening? I mean, I just filed last Friday, true. But you can't tell me that they can't accommodate one more person. I mean, come on. I've put on many, many events. And I know that push come to shove, somebody wants to get in, whoever's running the show can get them in. I know because I've done it. So who are we kidding? So I will be there. And we'll see what they do. But I'm not going to be denied. I didn't jump into this to become a shrinking violet and to just roll over and play dead. I am very much alive and full of the passion and power and spirit of the living God, whom I serve. And they are not going to deny me, period. So you stand by for that. But in the meantime, again, the number is 515-282-8105. That's 515-282-8105. I mean, because look, folks, you can't tell me, it's been a week now, you can't tell me that there aren't people in the mainstream media who don't know I'm running. They know. They know. I know because I've been in touch with some of them personally, not people at the higher levels, but people personally who work in some of these outlets, and they know I'm running. So the question is, why are they boycotting me? Sure, I'm just starting out, but so are many of these other candidates. I mean, some of these lower tier candidates, they don't have any money. They don't, I mean, what do they have? Really nothing. So I've just started out, but I'm a candidate. And I have an organization. I'm in the process of putting it together because I just filed and announced last week. I'm in the process of putting it together. We'll see what my reports say on September 15th, which is the next filing date. But in the meantime, I'm in it. We are working hard. We're not putting all of our eggs in the August 23rd debate because having just started out, we've only got 5 weeks to pull that off. If that happens, that'll be wonderful. But we're not, let's put it this way, we're in this for the long haul. My plan is to be the last man standing after the last primary, and my campaign is not going to rise or fall on whether I get into the debates on August 23rd, given the fact that we're just starting out. Well, we've got some wonderful signs of God moving in the midst of this campaign and making some things happen. So, folks, you just stand by. You be praying. Again, that number's for the Iowa Republican Party. They're having a dinner on on July the 28th. That's 1 week from today. And I am going to be there. And we'll see whether they let me in or not. The number is 515-282-8105. That's 515-282-8105. 8105. Now, they haven't seen the E.W. Jackson who can get a little bit, shall we say, pointed in my comments. Well, maybe they have. Maybe you have to. But believe me, folks, look, I'm not fighting for my ego. I am fine. You know what I mean? I am comfortable in my own skin. I know who I am. I know who Christ has made me. And while I fall short of his glory, I am thankful to God who he made me and what he made me and what he's doing with my life. So believe me, I don't need an ego boost. But I'm fighting for my country, and I am not going to be silenced, and I'm not going to be ignored. It's just that plain and simple. So thank you for calling them, 515-282-8105. That's the Iowa Republican Party, and ask them, why isn't E.W. Jackson being given an opportunity to attend and to speak at this dinner? He is a bona fide candidate. So what's the issue? What is the issue? And folks, you have my word. I will be there. And then we'll see what happens. We will see what happens. You all be praying for me, because you might have to send bail money. I don't know. But I'm going to be there. Now, don't get me wrong. You all know I don't believe in violence. I'm not talking about doing anything like that. And that's wicked. But I'm talking about going there and basically demanding, as a bona fide candidate, that I be given an opportunity to be heard. And then, they can certainly deny me. They probably have the legal right to do that, but then they'll have to explain that to people all over the country, because I'm going to keep talking about it if that's what they do. And they'll have to explain that to all the people in Iowa as well. Because, look, the people of Iowa have a right to hear from every candidate. I think that's what they want. And they may or may not choose to vote for me, but I think the people of Iowa would say, well, wait a minute. He's a candidate. I want to hear what he's got to say. Why are you denying him? Why? Because in denying him, you're not just denying him your particular event. You're denying him an opportunity for me to hear from him. You're denying me an opportunity to hear from this candidate. And I want that. I think that's the way the people of Iowa think. I think that's the way the American people think. That's why I love this country so much, because I found that whilst these elites can get beside themselves, because they are all caught up in ego and power and control, the American people are some decent, fair, honorable people. And I will go to my grave with that conviction, because I've experienced it. That's why I'm not concerned about what they think. I'm not concerned about what Republican establishment people think. I'm appealing to the grassroots people of the United States of America, because the Constitution doesn't begin with we the Republican leaders, or we the Democrat leaders, or we the big tech leaders, or we the financial or media elites. It begins with we the people. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union. The sovereignty of this nation is in the hands of the people, not in the hands of these elites, even though they think it is. In fact, here's a perfect example of this that I was going to bring up today. This is in Idaho, not Iowa, but in Moscow, Idaho, during the pandemic. The police arrested 3 Christians who were worshiping outside without masks. They actually arrested them during their worship service. You said, I mean, this is insane. And look, I love law enforcement people, and God bless them, because they do a very difficult and dangerous job. But sometimes law enforcement people have to say to their leaders, look, I'm not doing that. I don't believe that's even constitutional. And that's the highest law of the land. I'm not doing that. I'm not arresting people while they're worshiping God because they happen to not have a mask on. I'm not getting involved in that. So you deal with it, but I'm not doing it. some of these law enforcement people have to have the courage to say, look, I took an oath to the Constitution. I take an oath to you. But at any rate, they arrested them. Now they have to pay them $300,000, $100,000 each, I guess, for having arrested these Christians and taken them into custody and held them because they didn't wear a mask at their outside worship service. See, folks, that's the spirit. And I know these cops didn't decide. I mean, that wasn't their thing. They were obviously ordered to do that by higher-ups. But here's the point I'm making. These elites in our country, these people who are enamored with power and control over others, they really think that the country exists for them and that the people are here to serve them and to follow their commands, to do their bidding. It's the other way around. And that's one of the reasons why I'm running for president, because I want to restore some of the fundamental ideas about this country. The American people don't work for government. We are not at government's behest. We do not have a government that rules us. We have a government that serves us. The role of our government, its primary role, according to the Constitution, is to secure the liberties that God gave us. In other words, to protect us, to defend us, to make sure that we can live out our personal liberty in accordance with the law. That's the job of government. Its job is not to boss you around and boss me around and tell us what we can and cannot do, what we can and cannot think, and what we can and cannot say. But the Democrat Party particularly, and unfortunately some Republicans as well, I hope they're in a minority in the Republicans, but they've completely lost touch with that. Just like if you saw any of the hearing yesterday where they were excoriating Robert F. Kennedy Jr., and they said, basically making the point that there are certain things that should not be heard because they're misinformation. In other words, these people don't even understand their own country. The nature of our country is you have freedom of speech. And that freedom, she said, freedom of speech is not absolute, but it's close to absolute. It's close. You can't threaten someone. You can't yell fire in a crowded theater. You can't traffic in illegal contraband or illegal materials or substances. In other words, you can't traffic in or talk about child pornography or child sexual exploitation, which is another reason why I think we ought to lock some of these people up in the schools who are busy trying to ply these children with a bunch of transgender garbage against the will of their parents. We ought to put them in jail. Those are the people who ought to have handcuffs put on them and take them away and say, I'm taking you away for child sexual abuse, because you have no business talking to this child about intimate sexual matters. You're not authorized to do that. Those are the people who ought to be locked up. Because as far as I am concerned, they're nothing but latent child predators. And this indoctrination is why you've got almost 40% of brown students, and they're getting the same thing in other colleges around the country. You got all these students suddenly identifying as so-called LGBTQ because they're being indoctrinated into this perversion. So, at any rate, I want to remind you, this is something I know the Republican Party doesn't, again, the elites don't particularly want to hear, but I want to just share with you today the 3 constitutional amendments that I am proposing and that I will spearhead an effort to amend the Constitution to include these 3 amendments. Number 1, to define life and personhood for constitutional and legal purposes as beginning at conception. The moment a child is conceived, that child is a person and subject to the protection of the law. Because I was once there, you were once there, every single one of us was once there, and we have been blessed to experience the fullness of life, and it should be against the Constitution of the United States to deny that to any other child that is conceived in the womb and developing toward the same experiences that you and I have had. It's that plain and simple. Let's have the philosophical debate. Because if people want to say, well, it's not life, so I want to, the question I have is, so what you're saying is, you were not life when you were conceived. What were you then? When did you become life? When did you become a person? The reason why that question is impossible to answer is because it's a nonsense question, because you are life and you are a person from the moment of conception, but you are a person at a very early stage of development. That's all. That's all. In the same way, is a person who is autistic or a person who is mentally handicapped not a person because they can't articulate or they can't reason or they can't do the things that you and I kind of take for granted? Are they not a person? Of course they are. A person maybe who stopped at a very early stage of their development. Did they stop being a person when they stopped developing mentally? See, these are profound questions that have got to be asked, because we need to get off this stuff. Well, can it feel pain now, or is it viable now? That, to me, those are not really the questions. The question is it life and person or not? And I say, based upon the Word of God and based upon my own experience, yes. So what do you mean your own experience? Well, I experienced being conceived. No, I don't remember that experience. But it happened. Had to in order for me to be where I am now. You too. And we experienced what it was to be 3 months, 6 months, 7 months, 8 months. We experienced what it was to be born. I don't remember that. Do you? Because the child at that stage of development has no self-awareness, has no cognizance in the way you and I think of it. They don't have that. Are they not persons? Of course. So what is it? Not a person 1 minute before birth and then a person 1 minute after birth? I mean, well, that's preposterous. So, constitutional amendment to define life and personhood at conception. Number 2, a constitutional amendment to define marriage as a union between one man and one woman. That'll put a stop to all this litigation and all this effort to force people to bow and kowtow to sin. Because that's what they're doing. Particularly Christians, trying to force us to bow to sin. And it is sin. Let me say, as the first presidential candidate to say this, homosexuality is sin. It's not the first time I've said it, but I'm the only candidate for president to say that homosexuality is sin. No other candidate for president is going to say that. That probably explains why the media doesn't want to talk to me. But you see, the only way you acknowledge and protect the religious liberty of Christians is to acknowledge that Christians have a right to believe what I just said. Because the Bible teaches that all sex outside marriage is sin. Homosexuals cannot be married in any biblical sense. Therefore, their relationships, whether they call it a marriage or not, is sin. Period. Transgenderism is sin. God made two genders, male and female. Any attempt to create something else, any attempt to be something other than what you were created, is sin and rebellion against God, period. Now again, no other candidate's going to tell you that. Now look, a constitutional amendment that defines marriage as a union between one man and one woman, I think the American people are ready for it because they've seen what this has brought us. And they're tired of it. tired of being bullied, tired of being lectured, tired of being pushed around, tired of being told you're a bigot, you're a hater. Look, we don't care. People can live however they want to live. And as a Christian, I can disagree with the way they live. But I'll tell you, I've said this before. I would defend their right to live in peace and safety, and I would defend them against somebody trying to do them harm, or for certainly because trying to do them harm simply because that person happens to be a homosexual, happens to be a transgender. But they should not have a legal right to impose that on you and me and on our children. You can get the text of these amendments on the website, ewjacksonforpresident.com. And thirdly, a constitutional amendment to define gender as only two, male and female, period. Now, folks, I'm asking for your help. We are running. I know all of you are disappointed because I had supporters say, well, how come I'm not seeing anything? How come they're not acknowledging you in the news? I just explained why. We know what it is. We know what it is. I mean, we send our press releases. They know. But there'll come a point when they can't deny me. That point may be next Friday. Again, the Iowa Republican Party, they're having an event next Friday night. I'm going. They have not said they're going to let me in. The number is 515-282-8105. Call them and ask them, why aren't you going to let a presidential candidate in? Why? E.W. Jackson's a presidential candidate just like everybody else. So that third constitutional amendment will end all this litigation and all this stuff about, well, a guy who says he's a girl has a right to play with the girls' team, has a right to be in the girls' locker room, has a right to get aroused around the girls, and there's nothing they can do about that. I mean, this stuff is sick. And it's got to end. And it'll never end if we don't do this. It'll never end. Because they're never going to stop pushing the envelope. Now here again, people can live however they want to live. But they shouldn't be in a position to impose it on you and me. And that's what's happening now. In our schools, in our sports, they're pushing this stuff on us. That's what that song "Try That in a Small Town" is all about. It's not about violence. It's about saying we're not going to be bullied and pushed around by you people. Period. We're not having it. By the way, I love that song. I think that song is great. You use one little profanity in there, which I wouldn't do, but the theme of the song is the right one because it's to sound the alarm and to say to the world, to say to the country, we're tired of it, and we're not having it anymore. I'm the only candidate in this race, and by the way, folks, you watch this, and then I'm going to tell you how to contribute, but you watch this. You know, a lot of these candidates who are running, they're also courting the Log Cabin Club, which is the Republican homosexual club. These candidates who are running right now, they're all courting them. I'm not courting them. See, because I'm not doing anything to legitimize homosexuality. Now, here again, people can live however they want to live. But the idea that this is some group that must be recognized, I don't buy it. I don't buy it. These are a bunch of individuals who are sick, sinful, misguided in their thinking, and they should certainly be respected as human beings. But you don't have to respect the way they live, and you don't have to respect the way they think. You know, people always say, well, I respect your opinion. That's the wrong way to say it. I don't respect your opinion. I respect your right to an opinion. But if your opinion is wrong, I don't respect that. But I expect your right to have it. I don't want you hurt because you have an opinion that I know is wrong. But I'm not respecting your opinion. I'm just respecting your right as a human being to think differently than I do. That's going to do it for today. I'm asking you to go to our website, ewjacksonforpresident.com. We're going to keep working and building. I don't care what these people say. We'll keep working and building. Go to our website, ewjackson. Well, I hope I'm not on the air. I've gotten a couple calls from my former network, AFR. ewjacksonforpresident.com. Make any contribution you can. Remember, even a $1 contribution helps me get to the 40,000. Like I said, we're not putting all our eggs in that basket, but if we can get on the debate stage, obviously, we'll take it. I'm going to need a breakthrough for that to happen. But in the meantime, let's just keep pushing ahead. So go to our website if you haven't given yet. I'm asking right now, we're still on our 20-20-20. Pray for me 20 minutes a week. Give me $20.24 and talk to 20 people. It may take you 2 weeks to do that. But so make a list for yourself and say, I'm going to talk to these 20 people about EW. And maybe you don't talk to 20, maybe 15, maybe 10, maybe 5, maybe 3. But help me. Talk to people about the fact that I'm a candidate. When they say, well, why I don't see anything in the news about him, say, well, he's running to call the nation back to God, and these outlets really don't want to hear that. But you'll be hearing from him. We're going to see to that. God bless you, everybody. Thank you all so much for your prayers, your love, your support. I love you all. I love this country. I love the American people. We're going to win our country. We're going to save our country by the grace of Almighty God. Because we're going to stand up, step up, speak up, and refuse to back up. Because we cannot be defeated if we will not quit. Because we are on God's side.